Welcome to 24 Hour Sports, and today we're talking about the biggest steals of day two in the NFL draft. I think day two was a lot more predictable. For those who've covered the draft and understand these players as we get deeper into the rounds, I think last night I felt like I said, okay, I'm looking at the board, I'm looking who's there. This team is going to select this guy, this team is going to select this position. First round, I couldn't predict any of it. The only pick that I actually got right was Bijan to Atlanta. I could have saw Peter Skoronski to Tennessee, but it was a lot of uncertainty within those picks, especially from the Detroit Lions, to say that. But now, as we get into this, I'm gonna start with number one, pick 32. That's Joey Porter Jr. to the Steelers. It's a steal. This was one of my top 4 corners in the draft. I liked him right above Emmanuel Forbes in this draft. And there's some concerns with his game. A lot of people are talking about the hands and how would that translate to the NFL, because a lot of the things that they get away with, you won't be able to get away with some of those things in the NFL. So that's one talking point that we have about Joey Porter. But I think having him in that Pittsburgh Steelers room, we know the legacy, we know what that brings to the team. I really think that's a steal to get him in the first pick of the second round, which is actually in most years still a first round pick. But we know that the Dolphins had to forfeit their pick, so it's kind of tricky with that. Now, Will Levis. This was a pick that was held by the Arizona Cardinals. They traded with the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee moved up to get Will Levis, and I'm calling it a steal. Now, I think it's just a consensus thing to joke on Will Levis, to laugh at him. You know, he was sitting in the green room, looked pretty frustrated going through that, knowing that he was supposed to be a top 15 pick in the draft, but he came and he was the last quarterback selected out of that top 4, and he got selected in the second round. Wasn't a first round guy, but for the Tennessee Titans, you have to be ecstatic. This is a guy that you were potentially going to trade up for, that you were going to take at 11. You got him at 33. That's great value if I ever seen it. And I like what Tennessee's doing in this draft. Got Skoronski, got Levis. We're going to see some of their other picks. But this was a really sweet move, and you traded up to get him, so you really like what you have. They're shopping Ryan Tannehill, and I think this is a perfect scheme fit for that team. We know what they like to do. They like to run some of that read option in the red zone, but they really like to stretch the ball vertically. A lot of play action with Derrick Henry. Are they going to keep Derrick Henry? That's another talking point. But Will Levis, pencil that in as a steal for the Tennessee Titans. Now, getting into the rest of my board, we're going to go a little bit further down of the guys that I have as steals. Key talking points that I have, though. Matthew Bergeron, Jonathan Mingo, 2 players that aren't really steals, but I think they're so good. And as we got closer to the draft, teams started to pick up. Matthew Bergeron, probably going to play guard for that team. I like their tackle positions, but him, Chris Lindstrom, Jake Matthews, they got Bijan. This is a team, still have Al Greer, still got Patterson, got Kyle Pitts coming back, got Drake London, pulled in Matt Hollins. This is a team, watch out for them. Now, you're building it like a 1980s football team, but running the football is never going to go away in the NFL. And I think this is a team that's coming in, especially with the profile of a Bergeron, knowing his run blocking prowess. Bijan is going to have a very offensive rookie of the year. I can really call it. Now, Bryce Young in that NFC, that's kind of competitive, but Bijan is going to have a great season, no doubt about how they're going to scheme him up. I love that move. Jonathan Mingo, bringing him in for Bryce Young, another weapon. One of my favorite guys and a bigger bodied receiver in this class where everybody's profiling like a slot guy. So I do like that. I want to see how he plays. Now, they brought in Shark. They got Thielen. So we're going to look at some more of their players, but I really like their skill players. Brought in Miles Sanders, solid offensive line. The thought process that Bryce Young doesn't have a supporting cast, that's a very poor take. That's a lazy take to say that about the Carolina Panthers. But now, B.J. Ojolari, another pick I like, just to note. But getting into my steal, I got Brian Branch. And to visualize this as I talk about it, I want to bring up the depth chart of the Detroit Lions, because I want everybody to follow along what I'm seeing when I talk about why this is a steal. I think this is a team that's going to go in a lot of nickel packages, a lot of dime packages. Now, I still want to see them attack the interior offensive line. You see Aleem McNeil, Isaiah Buggs. I like those 2 guys, but I still want to add more right there. Somebody a true nose. And there's not a lot of guys in this draft that I would say, but a couple guys who can hold double teams and push the point. But I'm talking about those dime packages, those nickel packages. We see Tracy Walker, Chase Lucas, Melufanu, Mosley, brought in Sutton. I think he's going to be a stud for this team, and they paid him, so they're expecting him to be that. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson, now you got Brian Branch. Brian Branch, he's going to do a lot for this team, and I'm thinking, depending on how they use him, are they going to come out in that base nickel formation? Because I talked about James Houston, and that's the wild card in this thing. You see they got Jack Campbell. Now, I don't know his fit, but obviously, though, if they're going in a nickel package or a dime package, he can be that guy that stays on the field to keep that run defense, because we're trying to cover you. But if you run the ball up the middle, we still got Campbell plugging holes. We still got Rodriguez, and you know he can run around. Did it at Oklahoma State. But having this now, it gives you a lot of versatility. So I just think that it's a perfect fit, and it's really value. This is a guy that I would have picked top 20, top 15 in my draft. You got him at 45. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why am I going that high for a nickel corner? I do think Brian Branch is a nickel corner. You know, contrary to what some people are saying, putting him in a too high safety set, he has the ability to do that, but I wouldn't do it. I just let him play nickel, and I go back to Kyle Hamilton because he's a guy who played some safety, but you want to keep him closer to the ball. You want to have him in the box at that nickel position. I think Brian Branch could do some of those same things, especially for his team. They had a terrible defense last year, but bringing in this now, it's kind of looking good. And I think the thing about the Detroit Lions, now I'm going to take a step back because I did ridicule this draft and I didn't like it. But when I think about it now, the more it grows on me, they drafted all starters. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's going to be a start, even though he's going to rotate in with Montgomery. We know how that goes. They like that two-back system, but he's a starter. We can say that. Jack Campbell, he has to start, of course. Alex Anzalone, you brought him back. So now I'm thinking what you could do, and this is what I was looking at too, because you still got Derek Barnes, but I would, if it were me, I'd have those 4 defensive linemen, Hutchinson, Harris, Kaminsky, and then I would have Rodriguez, Campbell, and Anzalone. Those are my 3 linebackers. But it depends on where Anzalone plays in that. Now, I think Anzalone has a little bit of range. He can run if you want to put him at a Will or a Sam. Now, we know Rodriguez can run, can fill lanes. But Jack Campbell has to be the Mike in this situation. So it's just a lot of versatility, giving you options. So when you have play against different offenses, you can match that with your talent on defense. So now, getting into our next pick, I got Keanu Benton. And we're going to take it back to the depth chart here so everybody can see what's really going on. But this is a pick that when you got Cameron Hayward, even though he's getting a little bit older, this is a team, they were top 10 in rush defense, but they still could add more. We know the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is never enough. It's always a focal point, a calling card. I like DeMarvin Leal, drafted him last year. Want to see what he brings this year as far as an improvement year. But got Cam Hayward, like I said, and he can be that big defensive end. Now, Keanu Benton, I wouldn't necessarily put him as a big defensive end, so I think he's going to play that interior guy, that nose guy. Not a true nose, though. He's going to have different alignments. He's going to line up in a 3, line up in a 2, things of that nature. I don't think you line him up. You could line him up directly over a center, but he offers a little bit of versatility as far as his alignments and what he can get done. Now, at the Senior Bowl, he showed that he can rush the passer a little bit. Showed a long arm, showed a swim move, showed counter moves at that Senior Bowl. So that's interesting, having that pressure coming from the inside. We know Cam Hayward, an all-pro caliber player, one of the top 2 to 3 best at his position in football, and that's defensive lineman, period. Because he can be that big defensive end. He can line up as a nose. So, I mean, that's really special. Ogunjobi signed him back. Got Fajoku. But I'm really interested. Talking about Keanu Benton himself, I think he offered a lot of flashes. Now, his best was first-round grade. I had a first-round grade on Keanu Benton. I thought he could have anywhere from, I would say anywhere, once we got from 17 all the way down to 31, he was in that range for me. I thought a team could have picked him up, Cincinnati Bengals, New Orleans Saints, any team in that range, but they didn't get him. And he went to the second round, but this is a very good player. Now, has some things he needs to work on. Question of how acts against double teams, but I do think his best football right now is as a run stopper. And that's what we could use. But we also saw, going back to what I just said about that Senior Bowl pass rushing skill set. So hopefully he can bring it all together. I think in the end, this will be one of the better players from this class. And you got him at great value. Now, Cam Smith. And see, this pick kind of interested me. Because as soon as I seen Cam Smith go to Miami, I thought about what are they trying to do? How does he fit? Because we know they just traded for Jalen Ramsey. But I really thought about it. Jalen Ramsey wants to be closer to the ball. Kind of that star role that we saw brought on at the Los Angeles Rams. He's going to be doing that in Miami. Lining up everywhere. Being closer to the ball. Getting forced fumbles. Getting interceptions. Stopping the run. I've done a whole video just on Jalen Ramsey alone about what he can do. And I said I think he's one of the few players that can be an all-pro at a multitude of positions in the secondary. So this allows Cam Smith to be that other outside guy. Now, if he can't hold up, then of course Jalen Ramsey can get there and we can rotate another guy in. But him, Xavier Howard, Cam Smith has a lot of things and a lot of traits that we really like about him. The question about him coming out of Carolina was the long speed, but he cleaned that up. And I want to show you this because he ran a 4.4. There were questions about his long speed, and he came in, ran the 4.43, kind of backed some of those concerns off when evaluating him as a prospect. Now, there are some things as far as getting handsy in transition. I think you want to allow him to use his instincts, play off of the ball. And this is interesting with this team. Off-man coverage, some of those zone coverages. I know Miami likes to blitz, but just thinking Cam Smith, Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, that is a dog secondary. They're going to get after it, and they have to. And the AFC was competitive. Everybody's throwing the ball. So that's why I like this pick. Now, getting into my next guy, I got Tyreek Stevenson. And I made a video. I said, the Chicago Bears are recreating the NFL's scariest defense. And when I was talking about that, I was talking about Matt Eberflus, how he worked with the Indianapolis Colts, that 4-3 system, Tampa 2, having that Mike linebacker. I'm seeing it. I'm truly seeing it, especially with how they're drafting. Now, I think they still have to add to the edge, especially. Brought in DeMarcus Walker, but I seen him line up in a lot of 3-tech and some of the 4-eye. For this scheme, I just don't know because they drafted Gervon Dexter and they drafted Zach Pickens, which was kind of interesting to me. Good players, but kind of interesting as far as what they need still. But Tyreek Stevenson, press man corner. And even if it's zone, you still want to press him. You want to allow him to use his hands to his ability. Now, the long speed with him, I wouldn't say he's the fastest guy. But once he gets hands on people, it's not like he's going to get beat deep and not recover. He can hold up with guys, but if he goes against a faster guy, we know the fast receivers in the NFL. He may struggle. But Jalen Johnson, he's of that same essence. And they really got these two big body corners. Got Kyler Gordon who can play in the slot. Got Vendor still. I mean, this secondary is being built. Jaquan Briscoe, who I think is going to break out this season. Eddie Jackson, who's coming back off of injury. The Chicago Bears have really done something special. And I know some fans didn't like the Darnell Wright pick. But understand, that is your right tackle. And I say you can kick Whitehair to center. You can kick Tevin Jenkins to guard. And for them to pass on Jalen Carter, that tells me that they were higher on some of these prospects. Not because of players, but overall the culture that they're trying to bring. And they're still good players. Gervon Dexter, one of the highest rated recruits coming out of high school ever. He was that type of guy. And then on top of that, didn't reach his full potential at Florida, but Zach Pickens, another one of those high-ranked recruits. So we know the profile. Athletic. Zach Pickens and Gervon Dexter, you're not typically that size that can move laterally and agility-wise, how those guys move on the interior. So that's interesting. I think they can play beside each other. Zach Pickens being that guy who holds up against the run a little bit more. Gervon Dexter adding you something as a pass rusher. I really like those moves. Not to go too far out of context, but bringing in Tyreek Stevenson was a steal. I think he could have easily competed for one of those corners in the back half of the first round. One of those corners at the high second round picks. Now, as a Pittsburgh Steelers, they got Joey Porter. If it were Tyreek Stevenson, it wouldn't even be that far out of the question. That's how good of a player we're talking about. Now, right after that, John Michael Schmitz, solid player. Couple of questions about John Michael Schmitz as far as how he hold up as a pass blocker, but I think as a run blocker, he doesn't wow me on tape, but I think he does what he needs to do. And that's what you're bringing into the New York Giants. He's going to handle it. He can get up to the second level, can handle some of those double teams. So that's kind of what we're thinking. He's going to be a cog. He's a starter. Now, he never may be a Creed Humphrey, never may be a Tyler Linderbaum, but when we have him, center will never be a team need. That's the type of player we're getting right here at 57. And I like Joe Tippmann, who went to the New York Jets as well. I think Tippmann kind of offers you a little more athletically, but I think Schmitz is overall a better player. It's kind of close, but I think I would take Schmitz if I had to. Now, adding him in with that team, a team that needed interior, it's a good pick at value because I think if they had to take him at 25, they would have. But they got him at 57. So to get a guy you would take at 25, at 57, who's going to start, that's value. That is the definition of a steal pick. Buffalo Bills. I mean, Osiris Torrance, a guy who I could have saw going as high as 20. Now, he's a true right guard. And as far as pass blocking, he's going to get tested. He's going to get tested with stunts, with some of those faster guys on, pass downs. But in the run game, in a team that needs to bring a running identity, you hit it out of the park. Now, you got Dawson Knox and Kincaid. You're going to run those two tight end sets. Kincaid doesn't offer a lot as a blocker, but I think he will improve. He's going to have to improve to run those two tight end sets. But bringing in Osiris Torrance, having that on that offensive line, and you got a three-headed monster because we got Cook. We still got Singletary, and we got Nyheim Hines who just came in. So we're feeling really good. Now, I'm gonna double check that. I'm gonna double check those running backs for Buffalo because it's either Harris. I know they brought in Nyheim Hines. Yeah, it's Damian Harris, James Cook, and Nyheim Hines. Singletary actually went to Houston, I believe, but having that three-headed monster as the running backs, bringing in Torrance, I mean, he's a monster, a grown man at his finest when we talk about players and what they can do at that position. Now, getting into my next pick, I like Marvin Mims to Denver as well. Really like that pick. Now, it's making me question, are they shopping one of those receivers that they have there? But as far as what they have now, Tim Patrick, Sutton, Judy, guys kind of get hurt on that team as far as their receiving core, but in two picks, I do want to spot out. I wouldn't say they're necessarily steals because I think this is their value. But Sidney Brown and Tyler Steen, you hit that out of the park. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Seattle. Those are three teams I could just name off the top of my head who've been having the best draft so far. They've been hitting it out of the park. New England, I like the Keon White pickup, and especially the value you got him at. I love Christian Gonzalez, obviously. But 67, I got Drew Sanders. I think he could have easily been the first linebacker off the board. He's one of those guys when I watched Arkansas versus Alabama, Arkansas versus all of those SEC teams, he popped off my screen. I saw him, flew around, athletic freak, can pass rush, played middle, off the ball middle linebacker, sat in coverage, sideline to sideline. It's all about cleaning some things up. And what is his true position? Because this is a 3-4 team. Are they going to try to rush him? Are they going to try to play him as that typical linebacker? And this is a far-fetched, and I'm not comparing him to Micah Parsons. But when you think about it, you didn't know what Micah was going to be in the next level. Played middle linebacker, blitzed a lot from the middle, came off the edge some, and then he just turned into an every down outside linebacking pass rusher. So I think Drew Sanders offers you that. He's just a defensive player. And that's what you're getting at that value. Third round. Shouldn't have been there in my book is my evaluation. But he was, and they got him. Herndon Hooker to the Detroit Lions is interesting. My next pick, though. Cedric Tillman. for a team that I think needed receiver. Now, they got receivers. Anthony Schwartz, Marquise Goodwin, Donovan Peoples-Jones. They have receivers. Amari Cooper, of course. But to add this guy in, and they brought in David Bell last year, and he was a good guy coming out of college. Only had about 200 yards last season, and I really like David Bell out of Purdue. Thought he would be more productive, and maybe this is his year to break out. But Tillman's going to be that guy. I'm telling you. There's no way that Deshaun Watson can't succeed with what they have now in Cleveland. They got the running backs. They have the offensive line. They have the defense. Got you another weapon. And this was really a value pick. I don't think he should have been there. In that Marvin Mims type of Jonathan Mango range, Cedric Tillman could have competed there. Now, he was injured last season. Didn't reach his full potential in college. And that's kind of what people are saying. We need to see more. You're going to see more in Cleveland. And that's really what I have to say about him. A bigger receiver in a class of small guys. Pretty solid, balanced receiver. Can go get the football. Now, got 2 more picks that I considered steals. And that's 79, Josh Downs. Josh Downs, slot receiver. Alec Pierce. You know, we got to visualize some of these things. But Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, Mo Alley Cox, all of those guys, bringing him in there. Jelani Woods, Isaiah McKenzie. They're trying to build it. I don't know if it's going to be Minshew or Richardson, but I think either quarterback can succeed with what you brought in. I feel really good about this team. And also, I like the defense. And then we have to remember Shaquille Leonard's coming back. But as far as Josh Downs, I wouldn't have been mad if he was a second-round pick. A high second-round pick. That's why I had to mock that. You just know what you're getting. Not the fastest guy, but a great route runner. Great off the chart. If we're basing it off productivity, he was one of the more productive wide receivers in this class on the field at North Carolina. So, bringing that in now, people question the ceiling. Will he ever be that guy? And that's a debate we can have. But, at the value that they got him at, you have to feel great about it. In a team that could use a slot receiver. Now, they did bring in Isaiah McKenzie, but they got another guy. So, and I really like Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati too. I think he might shine this year. Now, getting back to my 3rd round, because I have one more pick. And that's Darnell Washington to the Steelers. To wrap this thing up, I feel really good about Darnell Washington to the Steelers. Najee Harris, Kenny Pickett. They got Keanu Benton. They got Joey Porter. They got in the 1st round Broderick Jones. Addressing your needs. This is how you attack a draft. And that's why I say it's one of the better drafts. Now, I think linebacker is still in play, and all the linebackers are off the board. Day and Henley went to the Chargers. And Overshown, as we can see right here, went to Dallas. Dorian Williams. So, are we getting in that Savaka Dennis range? Those type of guys left on the board. Ventrell Miller. Those type of guys as far as day 3. But to bring in Darnell Washington at the value was arguably, now as far as a pass catcher, I think he was lower on some people's boards, and he's going to bring in that run blocking. He can clean up some of the hand placement and things, but he's going to block. He's definitely going to block. And I think having him as a red zone threat with Pat Freiermuth, with Calvin Austin, with Deontay Johnson, and George Pickens, Allen Robinson just got there. This is the Kenny Pickett draft. And we added something to the defense, and we got another. This is an everybody draft. This is a Mike Tomlin building a team how you want to build it. Excited for the Steelers, excited for all of these teams and all of my steals. And to go back through this before we end the video, I got Will Levis, I got Brian Branch, I got Keanu Benton, I got Cam Smith, I got Tyreek Stevenson, John Michael Schmitz, Osiris Torrance, Drew Sanders, Cedric Tillman, Josh Downs, and Darnell Washington. And I also like 2 honorable mention guys I had noted. Mingo Charbonnet to the Seahawks, kind of interesting, but he's a great player. And I had Matthew Bergeron to the Atlanta Falcons, 1980s offense with Arthur Smith. But that's going to wrap it up for today. Those are my steals of day 2 of the NFL draft. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the content. And always, thank you for watching. But now, we out.